5th, 1943, Citadel begins. In the north, General Walter Model's Ninth Army smashes into the Soviet lines. Model, a master of defense, is now forced into a head-on slogging match he never fully believed in. The attack is a nightmare. The minefields stall the armored columns. The Soviet artillery, pre-sighting on every possible approach, rains hellfire. The new Ferdinand tank developers, with their powerful 88mm guns, kill Soviet tanks from a mile away. But they have a crippling, almost unbelievable design flaw: no machine guns. Soviet infantry, with suicidal bravery, simply swarm the massive vehicles, climbing into their engine decks with explosives. Model's attack sinks into the earth, advancing only 6 miles at a horrific cost. The northern pincer is a failure. But in the south, the story is terrifyingly different. Here, Marshal von Manstein's Army Group South, spearheaded by the 2nd SS Panzer Corps, is making progress. These are veteran troops, and they are using maneuver, finding the seams in the Soviet defense. This is a real crisis for the Soviets. Manstein's Panthers and Tigers are punching through the 1st and 2nd defensive belts. The Soviet Voronezh front is bending. For a few days, it looks as if the German plan, despite everything, might just work. The German spearhead is pushing relentlessly toward a small, unremarkable railway station, Pravorovka. This is where the Soviets play their final card. They commit their strategic reserve, the 5th Guards Tank Army. What happens on July 12th on the fields outside Pravorovka is called the largest tank battle in history. The reality is far more complex and more brutal. It was not a long-range duel. It was chaotic and point-blank melee. The Soviet T-34s, outgunned at a distance by the Tigers, did the only thing they could. They charged. Straight into the German guns, their engines screaming, their hulls bouncing over the shell-pocketed fields. Their goal was to close the distance, to get so close to the Tigers' superior long-range sights were useless, and their long 88mm cannons couldn't traverse fast enough. The result was a vision of hell. Tanks rammed into each other. Crews bailed from burning wrecks, only to be cut down by machine gun fire. The air was unbreathable, cloud of smoke, dust, and vaporized metal. By the end of the day, the fields were a smothering graveyard. Tactically, the Soviets lost hundreds of tanks and staggering material loss, but strategically, it was a victory. The 5th Guards Tank Army, though shattered, had stopped the SS Panzer Corps' cold. The German spearhead was spent. Just as the bloody battle reached its peak, a message arrives to Hitler. 2 days earlier, the Allies had just landed in Sicily. Hitler panics. He needs his elite divisions, the same ones fighting at Pravorovka, to be sent to Italy to defend the Italian homeland. Manstein is furious. He famously claims he was one push away from a total breakthrough of the Soviet lines. For that, we will never know. However, Hitler overrules him, and on July 13th, he cancels Operation Citadel. The German offensive is over, but the battle is not. German forces are still stuck in the Citadel pocket, and the Soviets, now knowing that German forces have been diverted to Italy, now have their counteroffensive chance. They held back 2 entire fresh armies in the north. They unleash Operation Citadel, smashing the German flank and collapsing the entire Oral salient. In the south, they launch Operation Rumanshev, cutting through Manstein's exhausted lines. They retake the city of Kharkov for the first time since its capture in 1941. Moscow celebrates with a 12-gun salute. The Germans, who had begun this battle as the Predators, are now in a full, shattering retreat. When the dust settles in August, the front line was almost quiet, but the entire war had shifted on the axis. The Wehrmacht had thrown its best men, its newest tanks, and its most brilliant generals into one last desperate defense. And the Red Army had not only absorbed the punch, it had punched back twice as hard. The Panzerwaffe, a veteran armored force that had conquered Europe in a matter of weeks was irrecoverably broken. The strategic initiative was lost, and it would never be regained. From this moment on, from Kursk all the way back to Berlin, the German army would only be reacting, retreating, and dying. The long, bloody road to the end of the war had begun, and it started here on these fortified fields of grass and steel. In the end, the Battle of Kursk was more than a clash of armies, it was a meat grinder. It consumed men and machines at a rate that the world had never seen. But to understand who truly won, we have to look past the official reports and into the brutalistic arithmetic of a total war. The numbers are staggering, and they are shrouded in mystery, manipulation, and the fog of war. Officially, the Soviet Red Army suffered over 860,000 casualties during the full Kursk campaign, but modern historians agree this is a vast understatement. The true figure was likely well over 1.2 million men. In the air, they lost thousands of planes. In the armored clashes, they were savaged, losing roughly 5 tanks for every single German Panzer destroyed. But here is a critical fact. For the Soviet Union, these losses, however horrific, were replaceable. The factories in the Ural Mountains were running day and night, and this is something the Germans could not afford. On the German side, the official reports were even more misleading. They claim only a total of 170,000 casualties. But analysis of divisional strength before and after the battle suggests the number more than double that, perhaps over 400,000 men. The real story, however, is in the tanks. German reports list only a few hundred total write-off tanks destroyed. This was total fiction. The Wehrmacht was crippled by a repairing backlog. 40 to 50% of their entire panzer force was damaged. These tanks, including the disastrous debut of the new Panther, were under repair on paper, but were, in reality, abandoned during the retreat. This is the true legacy of Kursk. It wasn't just about who lost more, but who could afford to lose more. The Soviets could, the Germans could not. The Red Army quickly replaced its men and machines, but the Wehrmacht lost the irreplaceable core of its veteran panzer divisions. Kursk was a bleeding wound that would never heal, a catastrophic loss of men and material for which the German army would never, ever recover.